Well, at least we have some clarity now. I mean, there'd been some uncertainty as to whether the president would follow through with the additional penalty, and if so, what it would be. Now we know. Um, Unfortunately, given just how the relationship has been developing in recent days, this new announcement is not all that surprising, and the president has also appeared very committed to following through with tariffs. And in that sense, despite the potential impact, the damaging impact this could have on the U.S.-India relationship, it's not that much of a surprise to me that in the end the president decided to follow through on his threat to impose this additional penalty. This is the worst crisis that the relationship has faced over the last 2 decades of strategic partnership. It's not the worst ever crisis the relationship has faced. I mean, you'll recall there were many dark days for the relationship during the Cold War era, and then, of course, after India formally became a nuclear state in the late 1990s and the sanctions kicked in. Those were not good times, but this is really a difficult moment. So the question is how to move forward. I would argue that there is potential for this relationship to be salvaged, not just because of the natural shared interests and the strategic convergences and all that, but this is a relationship that is multifaceted and has many different areas of cooperation that play out on parallel tracks and have the insulation to withstand shocks to the broader relationship. And here I would point to the fact that even during the last few weeks, when we've had such a difficult period in relations, there have been some significant achievements for the relationship. The two sides announced a development related to space cooperation. And then, of course, the U.S. also designated the Resistance Front as a terrorist group, which was a big boost to U.S.-India counterterrorism cooperation. So things can still happen. Good things can still come from this relationship, even in some of the darkest days. But I think that moving forward, there needs to be a confidence building measure. There needs to be something done that can lower the temperatures and ease tensions to a degree. And I think that one example of that would be for the two sides to come back to the negotiating table. The President Trump has never said that he is not willing to go back to talks. So if the two sides can come back and start talking again, that could be pretty significant right there. I would also look to later this year when there is a scheduled Quad Leader Summit in India. Assuming that summit happens and assuming President Trump goes to India, that could be a confidence building measure that brings a boost to the relationship. But I think for me, one of the biggest questions moving forward is, are the two sides and the various leaders not named Trump able to work around the decisions and the messaging and the actions coming from the president himself? In other words, will the whims of the president, will the actions of President Trump hold the relationship hostage? If so, it could be difficult to move forward. But if you have senior officials at the State Department, the External Affairs Ministry, engaging on high levels, if there's if there's a phone call between, say, Dr. Jaishankar and Marco Rubio in the coming days, that could be very helpful as well. I think that talking is important. That needs to happen. Even as bad as things are now, I don't think that anyone who's influential in power in Washington, including President Trump, wants to see this relationship collapse. You have a lot of genuine support for partnership with India, but I do think that officials in Washington underestimate just how much unease and unhappiness there is in New Delhi and across the wider Indian public about the state of the relationship. So I do think it's important that Washington recognizes that, and hopefully that might prompt it in due course to try to push for new engagement that can try to bring this relationship back to a better place.
Mike,
I think this comes back to the taking it personally issue that I mentioned before. China has not uh, stood out there and refused to let President Trump take credit for his role in the ceasefire. China has not had its leader have a long conversation with Trump on the phone and essentially dictate to him, well, what's right and what's wrong. these are things that happen with India. And so I think that that's why perhaps President Trump would reserve some of his greatest ire on the trade and tariff front for India and for the Indian government. Indeed, it's a double standard, it's hypocritical, whatever you want to say, but I do think that that might help explain why India, which is, has been such a close partner of the U.S., has been singled out for particularly harsh treatment by the U.S. president.